So, um, if you don't follow auto racing, I know I talk about it a lot because it's something that I like. It's something that I care about. Specifically, NASCAR. And if you haven't been following it, there's an announcement that was made uh, last couple weeks, basically that last few days that NASCAR is going to a single lug hubbed wheel next year. When they introduce their next gen car setup. And it's caused people to become upset because it's called the National Association of Stock Car Automotive Racing. And if you don't know anything about cars, most cars that are on the road right now have multi-lug wheels because of the fact that um, simply the that's the way they're made. They either have five or six. Occasionally, you'll see somebody out there that's fancies themselves a racer or whatever. It's got 8 lug nuts on there, but most of them have 5 or 6. But NASCAR is going to a single lug, which open wheel racing has had for a very long time. And so people have gotten very upset, thinking that this is the final nail in the coffin and you might as well just take the fenders off because it's no longer stock car racing. And it's of course resulted in people coming back of like, it's not even stock cars anyway, it's just a little bit of it's a sticker on the front end of a car that doesn't really have anything to do with actual on the lot dealership cars anyway. I mean, there's no rear wheel drive V8 Camrys anywhere, blah blah blah. And then it's just, and it's created a conversation of at what point did they stop being stock cars? Is it back in the 70s when they were racing the Superbirds? Was it in the 80s when NASCAR forced Chevy to start producing the Monte Carlo with the aerodynamic front end homologated because the NASCAR teams wanted to reshape the nose? Is it, uh, or like when precisely was it? And it's something that every field, every sphere of existence has to deal with. At what point did we get in? Because we're in an election year as well. At what point did your election party, what your political party, become what it is now? Of whatever you think it is, pandering to identity politics or the corporate shill or the whatever it is that you think. At what point did it become that? And in Christianity, we deal with this as well, because at what point did your denomination become Southern Baptist or the Anglicans or or whatever it is here in the Midwest where I live now? When did it become Methodism, United Methodism, or when did it become the Quakers? When did it, like, how do you know, and how do you know the point in which it's no longer that anymore? And there's, with the way that demographics of churches are shifting, how do you know if your church, when did it, is it still your church? Is it still your congregation? Is it still whatever? Like, we ask ourselves these questions on a regular basis because of the fact that change is one of the only constants in existence. And economies and job landscapes and just educational landscapes and intellectual landscapes, they're constantly shifting. And a lot of times, well, I'll just kind of let this issue go. with divorce. We're not gonna talk about divorce at all because we don't want to step on anyone's toes. We want to make people feel loved and accepted. And then, well, we're not going to talk about pornography because we don't want to make anyone feel like we're calling out their something that they're vulnerable with. We don't want to make people feel uncomfortable, and we're not going to call out homosexuality. We're not going to hold the line. We're not going to be authentic. We're not going to call out men to lead in their families. We're not going to call out women to support and love and respect their husbands. We're not going to expect boys to grow up and take responsibility for their actions. We're not going to expect women to dress modestly. We're not going to expect men to treat other human beings as if they're actual human beings. We're going to let them treat other image of God bearing human persons as if they're objects for fulfillment of physical desires instead. We're not going to and every time you can see that issue, you step a little further away from the truth, and you step a little bit further away from what truly is the bride of Christ, the church. And eventually, you're standing so far away from it, you can't even see it anymore. You can't even recognize it. And in the example, they kind of opened it up with the NASCAR thing of that. It started off with that, people would drive their cars to the racetrack to race. It was a literal stock car. And then manufacturers got involved and started sponsoring teams because they realized that if my Monte Carlo or our Thunderbird won the race on Sunday, that people would be a lot more interested in buying it on Monday. And that's the whole adage of that win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And then it got to the muscle car era, 60s, 70s, where you could get a 427 cubic inch Camaro with a V8 in it, and that same car be in the races on Sunday morning with just few things like roll cage and whatever. And things were dangerous and they were fast, and that's when the most legendary racers were racing. Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison, and that they were charismatic and outgoing, and there was this superhero persona about them. And over time, of course, changes were made to make people more safe, because there's only so many times you can watch somebody die in a ball of fire, or the crashes that killed Dale Earnhardt and Adam Petty and some of these people, that there's only so many times you can see that happen. And then on the other hand, seeing crashes like Ryan Newman's and some of these that you're just like, that was a close call. And it's a good thing we had the safer barriers and the roll cages and things. But at the same time, it seems like it's kind of just, it's pulling the spirit out of what made it stock car and make it into something else. Something that's not that same spirit. So, it's an unfortunate thing. I don't know. I'm probably going to keep watching because I like the horsepower and the gasoline and the smell of gas. But the same thing is true in the church, that you can start out as a Christian, like, I'm going to read my Bible every day. And then, you know what, I'm just really tired today. I'm not going to get around to it. And then, I just don't know what to read. I just don't feel it, And just over time, now it's been a month. And you have, like, it's just, there's actual dust film across the cover of your Bible. It's kind of what I was getting to last week as well, or my last video as well, of just stop putting it off. Just start now. Don't make excuses. Don't let yourself slip like that.